Guys, it's Jerningam here. Just thought I'd share this video why the army are there in Wiltshire in the UK. Apparently there's a horse on the hill in Wiltshire in the UK which the horse needs redoing on the hill. It's like a chalk horse on the hill of the UK. Most of you people know from the UK there's a horse on the hill in Wiltshire, and they're redoing it, and they've had to call the army in to do the horse on the hill. So we're going to press play.
Horse has presided over the Wiltshire countryside since it was created by a local farmer in 1812.
There's the white horse down there.
It's been 10 years since it was last chalked, so local residents decided it was time for another restoration. However, with 46 tons of chalk needed to score the horse and vehicles not permitted onto the site, the Joint Helicopter Command Unit were called in to help. So these bags behind us that are full of, I found this on the floor, the magical white chalk. Okay. I don't know why it's magical. It feels appropriate if it's a horse on the hill.
It's a lot better chalk than what we have up on the hillside. So currently up on the hillside is a mixture of chalk and flint, which is probably why when you look up there it's very grey and it looks like it's taken a lot of toll on it over the past few years since its previous chalking. So what we're doing is we've got 46 bags here with approximately a ton in each bag. So we've got 46 tons of chalk that we're going to be taking up there that will be spread around by the local community.
Obviously, you're helping out the community by helping to re-chalk the horse, which I believe was done 10 years ago. But it's also an operational practice kind of side for you guys as well, isn't it?
Exactly. What we're doing today, so the big thing for the military and Joint Helicopter Command is the use of several different units. So as we mentioned, we've got Tactical Support Wing, we've got Commando Mayos, we've got JHSS. So we've got a mixture of different units, plus 18 squadron are coming with a Chinook, a crew on there, plus myself, media. It's how we make all of the different units work together.
So can I be of use to anything today? I can be on the hill, maybe as you're putting it down, be like, chalk, chalk, chalk.
Well, if you want to be a cheerleader, I'm sure you can get your pom-poms out and start cheerleading on the team.
Despite the white horse being created over 200 years ago, it disappeared from the landscape during the Second World War.
Beginning the Second World War, they decided that the white horses would be too useful a navigation marker for German aircraft. So an order came down from the War Office that all white horses were to be camouflaged over, which essentially meant they were turfed over for the duration of the war. And this one was turfed over, and then when the war ended, we had a very large German prisoner of war camp in Devizes, and the prisoners of war brought out to uncover it again. So that's why we think it's the same shape it was before it was camouflaged, but no one can be absolutely certain.
So we boarded the Chinook helicopter, which is especially well suited to transporting unusual loads with its twin rotors and triple hook assembly. The Chinook is capable of lifting 10 tons, but today it carried just 4 each trip to avoid more manpower being needed on the ground. The operation involved a variety of different units working together from across the 3 services. Personnel from Joint Helicopter Support Squadron had to battle 135 mile-per-hour downwash winds on a steep hill with minimal visibility as the chalk was whipped up into the air. Not the easiest conditions to unhook the bags of chalk. Personnel continued working into the night. The next phase of spreading the chalk will be undertaken by a team of volunteers from the local community.
Very interesting video that was, about Wiltshire chalking a horse from the Second World War, from the Germans. Yeah.
US President Donald Trump is building a wall. Maybe you've heard about it.
I've already started building the wall to stay have to be protected.
Donald Trump's building the wall.
Steel barrier. The border wall. To build the wall. The wall. Border wall. Border wall. We're building a lot of wall. The wall with the barrier. The wall. Physical barrier. We need the wall. Wall. Wall.
With all this talk about the border wall in the US, it got me thinking, do walls work? And can President Trump learn from military walls? Border walls or barriers aren't anything new. In fact, I'm actually walking along one of the oldest border walls on the planet, and this is Hadrian's Wall, built by the Romans to keep pesky barbarians from Scotland, like me, out of the Roman Empire. There's border walls all over the world, some of them highly militarized. Looking at them, they tend to have something in common. They all have more than just one wall. I wanted to test that theory with some of the world's military wall experts, so I've come here to speak to the guys at HESCO.
There's like Tesco, Hesco.
Is brilliant. You know, it's so easy to transport. It folds flat. It's relatively light. But once you fill it, and you can normally fill it with almost any fill material that you find, then the performance of the product is outstanding. To coin the phrase, it was a real game changer for a lot of the militaries. So there's a quote by some generals saying it was the biggest evolution in force protection for the last 500 years or something. Don't quote me on that, but it's something like that. Gabions are not a new idea. I mean, the Romans used them. They had wicker baskets and they filled them with dirt. So it's not a new idea, and the concept's very old. Take it to the next level and develop, let's say, the 21st century version of that.
This invention changed the way modern armies go to war. You've probably seen them before. It might seem like a relatively simple design, but before HESCO, only a few decades ago, soldiers would have to build walls out of sandbags. Not quite as fast. So how did HESCO come about?
So HESCO is nearly 30 years old. It was developed and invented by a local guy to Leeds. His name was Jimmy Heselden. So Jimmy had a property on the east coast, and it was very close to a cliff face which was eroding away. And he wanted a product that he could install rapidly and effectively, and that it would stop the further corrosion to the coast. He developed the lined Gabion unit, constructed it on the cliff face, filled it with cement, and then as a result, that saved his property.
So this invention that started in someone's garage has really become a whole system that changes the way modern militaries can go to war. It can be simple walls like this one behind me, or they can be unloaded out the back of an ISO container at speed. There's a whole range of products that use this simple structure to make bigger, more useful things like a accommodation block or weapon stores, anything like that. It's allowed for new tactics where forward operating bases can be constructed overnight. But an effective barrier is always more than just one wall.
Usually, to have an effective wall, it needs to be part of a suite of a solution to basically delay or deter an attacker. So we would have a solid earth-filled wall, then usually you would have some form of standoff, which is a distance between the wall and another product, for instance, a fence. So a potential attacker, he has to break through many layers of defense to even before he gets to the wall itself. The important thing is that you react in the time it takes the potential attacker to get through that system.
It depends what your site is. I mean, you can have a perimeter that's hundreds of kilometres long. Is your attack going to be vehicle-based? Is it going to be explosives? There's lots and lots of things that you've got to consider when you're putting together a site.
One of the things you have to do, even though you've got something to physically stop a bomb, a bullet, or a car, or a person, you've got to physically watch that barrier. So if you don't watch it, people will get through it, over it, around it, what have you. So you have to watch whatever system you've deployed.
On military operations, this layered defence is everywhere, and what HESCO are saying is nothing new. Back in the Cold War, these same defensive techniques were used all across the inner Germany border. And although it started being taken down in 1989, there's plenty of places across Europe where you can still see some of its remains today. It's the most recent border wall that would be anywhere near the size of a wall separating Mexico and the United States. When it was built, the world was in the depths of a Cold War. The Iron Curtain separated East and West. On one side, the Soviet Union and communism, and on the other, the countries that were allied to the United States or neutral. It cut Germany and Europe in half, and was one of the most militarized and highly defended borders the world had ever seen. Migration from east to west of the Iron Curtain was a big problem for the Soviet Union. Thousands of people leaving didn't look good for communism. In the 5 years following the Second World War, over 15 million people left Soviet-occupied Eastern European countries to live in the West. So immigration was effectively halted after 1950, and border defences were erected. This border, this fence, wasn't built to keep people out. It was built to keep people in, and it worked. Before the first walls and fences were erected, More than 200,000 people were leaving the German Democratic Republic every year to live in the West. But when the barriers went up in 1961, that number fell dramatically. And it stayed this low until the walls and fences eventually came down in 1989. Unlike the proposal for President Trump's wall, this border was not one obstruction. This border was multiple different things that were built to keep people from crossing. So we have the road that I'm not on now, which was built just to speed up the reaction of police that might know that there's someone escaping. There was a forensic line so that they could keep track of how many people had crossed or identify vehicles, that sort of thing. You had the anti-vehicle barrier, and then you had the fence behind it, one of many fences, sometimes with automatically firing weapon systems, mines, dogs. This was not one wall, and that's why it worked. And they had to keep adding all the way up until 1989 when the Democratic Republic failed, because people still were managing to succeed, even though it was smaller numbers. Okay, so walls, fences, they can work, but they need a whole range of additional defences and surveillance. As early as 122 AD, the Roman Empire was building with this in mind, and that's why all along the wall there's huge forts like this one, and these were to house the garrisons of soldiers that were required to keep a wall this long effective. By the way, these toilets are nearly 2,000 years old. So that's Hadrian's Wall just behind me, and it's built here strategically on this cliff. Oh, I hate heights. But much of this is already in place along the US-Mexico border. And what you see there is often similar to what you might see on military operations. There's aerostats watching for migrants, patrols of border guards, boats, trucks, seismic sensors, motion cameras, and they train with the military to practice catching illegal migrants. One of my colleagues is actually ex-Royal Navy, and he's been on this training before. Hey Matt.
What's up?
That's it.
Yeah, sure. So I was working with Commander Helicopter Force on 845 Squadron, and we deployed down to Southern California in El Centro to play in the desert. So whilst we were there, the US Border Patrol asked if we would like to participate in an exercise with them. The exercise consisted of being 3 teams being dropped off near the border and make it to an RV point by the next morning without being captured. So I got a quick video that I shot during the exercise. So as you can probably see there, you've got the Sea King coming to pick us up. By this point, we've already dropped 2 of the teams off, so we're the last team to be dropped off. Yeah, we get out, the Sea King goes off, we had a very basic map and compass, and away we went to conduct the night exercise. We got dropped off about 6 PM in the evening, and we had to be at the RV point by 6 AM then the following morning, so we were running the whole entire night. But to get to the RV point, we had to cross a small, well, we thought was a fairly low mountain range, but we got to it, and it wasn't. It was pretty tough going through there, climbing down dried up waterfalls, rock faces, that sort of thing, to get down to the other side. You can't move through the day, it's just too hot. You're looking at 45 degrees. So we rested through the day, and at the night, that's when we made our moves. They would get pretty close. We would get down on our belt buckles, and they would drive past. But the things they're looking for is tracks, footprints, that sort of stuff, and they can work out the direction of travel, how many people in the group, that sort of thing. So when we were waiting for our vehicle pickup, the vehicle was not far out, and we were hiding in a ditch, and the dog sniffed us out, and the dog caught us. 2 of the 3 teams were captured. We were captured 2 minutes before our necks, so yeah, they were very good.
The border between the US and Mexico is already heavily guarded. In the late 80s, the first walls were being built using military surplus helicopter landing mats from Vietnam. But even still, with all that money spent, people are still making it across. Will the wall along the entire border, along with the expansion of existing defences, decrease illegal migration? Possibly. Walls have proven to be significant on military operations throughout history. But in modern defence, they're much more effective when they make use of technology and a complex layered system. And when it takes more than just a barrier to defend your average military base, defending 2,000 miles of border will too. And it's going to cost a lot. And yes, this is the wall that inspired Game of Thrones.
Hi. That's your fault, isn't it?
You got sick, man? You man, you got sick.
Yeah.
Interesting video. Well, like I say, guys, I hope you've all enjoyed this video I've done. I've done 2 videos on this one. I've just eaten my food as well, that's why I just had a hiccup. Yeah, so thanks for joining me in this one, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.